Sound is great. Hi, hello, and welcome to another episode of the War on China. What are you doing there, Mario?
I'm grooving out, baby.
What does this have to do with today's video? China loves Sinatra, sir.
This has everything to do with politics and music. And so, Fernando, listen, as you know, with you in the War on China show, and friends, great to see all of you again. Thanks for joining us. The War on China show is so important, and it's great, and it is what it is. And I love doing it with Fernando, the executive, being our executive producer and all. And but man, I mean, even the title of the show, The War on China, I mean, it's rough. Okay. It's not smiley, happy days, it's rough. It's very difficult political topics, which we all understand that. And those are legitimate realities. Those are political topics that are unfortunately exist, right? Nobody's happy about this. We would like, peace and love, smoke a joint, everybody happy and smile and hug. I'm not a pot guy. I'm just saying as a joke. So let's have a love fest. It would be nice if we could, but it isn't reality, and it isn't happening for lots of different reasons. And so that's why the War on China show exists, as you all know. Well, in the meantime, though, Fernando and all of you who follow me, and you go to my site, and you can see I'm making a transition also over to a newer, more positive branding. So the War on China is fantastic, but there's lots of other things that I do and talk about. And so it's become because it's my amazing life in China, 22 years, Mr. Ma's Adventures, Mr. Ma's China Adventures. And that opens it up for me to be able to do and talk about more positive things like the new wine project with the amazing ice wine, Mr. Ma's Bin 88 down in Southern Liaoning. Whoever imagined there was a, European award-winning wine in Southern Liaoning province? Nobody knows this. And by the way, we're going back down there again because right now is the changing of the leaves in autumn. Everybody knows how spectacular that is. So we're going down. I'm going to be shooting some documentaries for the vineyard down there, and we're going down tonight, and we're going to be shooting all day tomorrow with all the gear that you helped me arrange. Thank you. My beautiful new Canon 200D and all the wireless and the boom and the shotgun mic and everything. Fernando, thank you.
I'm the guy who helps people get the message out.
Yeah.
But tell me about this piano. Okay, what is this thing? We're talking about a couple of things today. We're talking about Taiwan, and we're talking about LinkedIn leaving China. And this particular, let me show you here, Microsoft to shut down LinkedIn website in China as internet censorship increases in the country. What is your take on this? Bring us in.
Bye-bye, LinkedIn. And now the end is near. I'm near my final curtain or whatever that is. But then it jumps to the end, and I wrote the lyrics down, and I absolutely love this. Everybody gets it, right? Oh, da 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 da. I mean, God, everybody knows that theme, right? My Way, Frank Sinatra, My Way, right? The record shows I did it my way. Now, I'm a jazz piano player, not a singer, obviously. So I'm so happy. I'm going to pop over to the couch. That I'm happy to talk about the new theme, right? This is Mr. Ma's China Adventures, and I play, as you all know, I play jazz piano. I mean, a lot of business people have an artistic and entertainment life as well. My best friend, who I used to play in jazz duet and trio with in Shanghai, was a corporate banker, like literally a corporate banker, a white collar banker guy, and he was my trumpet player. My other dear friend in Shanghai is the general manager of a manufacturing company, tech manufacturing company that he owns, and he was my saxophone player, Mario Di Antonio in Shanghai. Hello, Mario. It's another guy named Mario. So, this is another side of life. This is another part of life. And it's important and good, and I'm happy to share it all. Mr. Ma's China Adventures, here we are, baby. So in the meanwhile, the thing is, look, why My Way? Why the music? What's it all about? Come on, guys. if you go check out the lyrics to My Way. Whoa, my wife is calling me in the middle of a live stream. So sorry, I can't take the call now, honey. Vincent, call mom and tell her I'm in the middle of a show with Fernando. Can't have a phone call right now. China, I mean, this is it. We're right to the politics, right? And it's the truth. Okay. What right does a country like the United States have to impose its way on other countries? China is clearly, and this began in the 1930s, which is what we're going to go back and cover, right? I sent you the notes. Okay. China is doing things their way. Okay. Period. That's it. And countries like the United States or any other country have no right to try and believe or think or cajole China into doing anything other than what China wants. Does America try to change Italy to not be Italian and to become American? Does the U.S. have a campaign to do that? To ruin France or Spain? Should Greece not be Greece because America decided it wants it not to be? Well, what is this crap? So China is doing it their way. We know it. We understand it. And fortunately, for a lot of the world, China's way is tremendously successful. As you and I, as we all know, China is the largest, safe, stable, successful, and capable country on the planet. Thank heavens that it is. Could you imagine all the trouble that's happening in the world these days, Fernando? As you know, if China wasn't doing well, wouldn't all the shitstorm be even 10 times worse than it is now? If China itself hadn't been doing so well all of these months.
If China hadn't produced the vaccine that China produced, which is actually far more effective than Pfizer and the other ones, you see the problems in Singapore, you see the problems all over. We should be grateful that China gets things done the proper way. So if you're thinking about vaccine efficiency, take a look at China's. And, well, let's move on to something else. Sir, I got something that I want to share with you. Are you ready for this? This is talking about media and how media lies and how media manipulates things. So we get back to China. China is not mentioned in this particular bit, but listen to this. This is Joe Rogan talking to Dr. Gupta, who is the CNN medical advisor. Listen to this. This was gold.
Point is, you're working for a news organization. If they're lying about a comedian taking horse medication, what are they telling us about Russia? What are they telling us about Syria? Do you understand that that's why people get concerned about the veracity of the news?
Now, add China to that list. CNN is just an organization that lies about a comedian. Why would they not lie about China when there are so many incentives to do so? So a lot of the things that are in the news these days, and we're going to get back to LinkedIn in a minute, have to do with Taiwan. Look, I get it in the comment section. There's an absolute... Okay, I'm not going to call him names, but there's a person that insists that Xi Jinping is set on attacking China, and he's set on terrorizing China, and he's threatening China. And I said to these people, which part of peaceful reunification don't you understand? But he said that he will use force if necessary. And I'm like, exactly. Which part of if necessary don't you understand? And it's not necessary. It's not necessary. But if Taiwan decides to go, oh, we want to be independent, or America starts to push for Taiwan's independence, then something is going to take place. That's when it becomes necessary. Before that, there's absolutely no intention to go by force. And I pointed out some interesting things to this person, this individual, that I'm fed up with him. I said, like, look, do you know who is Taiwan's largest trade partner, both in imports and exports? China. So if China cuts that window, what's going to happen to Taiwan's economy? Now, do you know that there are several islands of Taiwan that actually depend on Chinese water? What happens if China decides to cut the water to those islands. What's going to happen to their population? Oh, but only most people live in the main island of Taiwan. I'm like, okay, so the only people that matter are the ones in the main island. The ones in the other islands don't matter to you. Is that what you're trying to say? I mean, no matter how you look at it, how much of Taiwan's industry depends on supplies and raw materials coming from China? If China just sanctions and closes the door, what's going to happen to Taiwan's economy? So China could do so much damage to Taiwan without firing a single bullet.
Thank you.
Understand
But
that, people. But you know what the danger is, Myra? I don't know if you want to add to this particular comment, because I want to come back to this topic of strategic ambiguity that pisses me off so much. So, if you have anything about Taiwan, but let me talk about strategic ambiguity in a second, please.
keep going. Okay. I don't know. I don't like what you're saying. I don't like what you're saying because it falls into that same trap of putting the onus on China. China could cut off, China will, if it has to, cut off Taiwan or something to that effect, right? Now, which all makes sense, right? But when we say that, we're forgetting to mention that would never happen at all, ever. Unless Taiwan was first to make a move, which would be cutting off China. So it's not the
a reaction.
Thank you. The onus is not on the media is trying, and you said it that way, and I'm going, I don't even like the way he's saying this right now because it puts the onus on China. The onus is not on China. China will never, ever, 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 ever cut off Taiwan. If Taiwan attempts to cut itself off from China, then China would react and go, oh, no, wait a minute, that's not happening. That's the point, okay? And I said it in a short video earlier, because you're right, America's on my Twitter feed. America's strategic ambiguity and all that stuff. It's all a bunch of political nonsense because it goes back to the 1930s when the Song Sisters got together with Chiang Kai-shek and bamboozled Franklin Delano Roosevelt in the first place, okay, to make them think that Taiwan was more important than China. Well, how did that work out, right? So obviously there was a lot going, and this goes back almost a century now. Wow, we're at 90 years. Anyway, you get my point. None of this is going to happen. What? No, none of this is going to happen because the first thing that has to happen is that Taiwan has to make a move, a specific move, which would be in the news cycle. Good morning, Drudge Report headline, CNN headline, Taiwan makes the following action, which indicates it is choosing to work toward a vote toward independence, which is what Taiwan would do. Now, because again, if Taiwan is a quote, they're standing up to all this thing about being a democracy, not being an authoritarian government. Well, if that's true, then they certainly would only become an independent place by vote, right? That's the whole
That's
point.
the idea of liberalism. That's the idea. We want China to become like us. And it didn't happen. But
you do. Well, you get my point. Okay.
The whole idea of liberalism, of what the West wanted China to become in terms of liberalism, was to get democracy and one man, one vote, and get elections and whatnot. So that didn't actually happen. What did happen was, well, a lot of Westernization of China, a lot of values that were modified, a lot of values that were changed. China used to be very family oriented, but a lot of those family values are being dropped by newer generations because of the influence of the West. And what we're seeing today is a China, as we read in some of the documents that we're sharing on one of our groups. Mr. Wang was actually the one who is trying to prevent. He wrote a book called America Against America, but the whole idea of preventing China against China is what you see taking place today. It's protecting China from going down the path of just absolute loss of values in the West. Mario?
Yeah, the idea here is everyone can see it, whether you are Chinese or otherwise. The very worst of Western capitalism is upon us. The very worst of supposed Western capitalism and supposed freedom. Ayn Rand in Atlas Shrugged refers to it so wonderfully as what happens if and when the disaster of capitalism becomes what she referred to as mutant capitalism. And that is exactly what has happened. It causes a deterioration of the society, everything we've seen over the last 20 years. Well, look, ask any Italian, ask any French, ask any German, ask any Chinese, ask any Singaporean. Everybody's looking at America, watching the place melt down. Nobody's happy. Everybody understands it. The Chinese government turns around and says, well, to a degree, capitalism is good. To a degree, social entrepreneurism is good. But to a degree, the responsibility of the government for the society, the social aspects are also good and important as well. And we are not going to let our country embrace so much of this, and this is the cancer, when it just went over the deep end to this neoliberalism, this extreme freedom and neoliberal nonsense, which is literally caused the deterioration of American society. And it's directly tied to capitalism. And when deteriorating capitalism becomes fascism, which is exactly where America's at, and Xi sees it, they see it and they have a series of 5-year plans to prevent it. They're like, yes, we've embraced plenty of aspects of capitalism, the good aspects, but we are not going to let China go over the cliff like America has. This began with Alibaba last year, then Didi, on etc. Education sector, protect the workers. And then finally we have a new piece to the puzzle, and it leads us back to the LinkedIn conversation because boom, that shoe dropped this morning, and that's another one that's highly misunderstood, and we're going to talk about that here now.
Well, this is the bit about LinkedIn, but let me add something related to my field, the idea of education. Let me explain to people actually what was taking place. There were so many training centers and tuition centers that were using China as a Ponzi scheme, the customers as a Ponzi scheme. Let me explain. There's this one training center in my city that grew up to have over 100 training centers in a 10 million inhabitant city. So quite large. Guess what they did? Let me explain this to you, and please pay attention, gentlemen. They would offer 5 years training or 3 years training for X amount of money. And they would say, after the 3 years, we will refund you 90% of what you paid. So what are they doing literally? They are capturing money. And what did they do with that money? They started growing and building more training centers. Now, this affects the market in an incredible way because, well, I can get education for 10% of what I'm actually paying. I'm going to get 90% at the end of 3 or 5 years. That's fantastic. What does that do to centers like us that run on just our own budgets and our own figures, right? But let's continue with this particular training center. So these people were taking the money from these customers, investing it into creating new centers that continue to do the same. So within a very short time span, they were able to grow to hundreds of training centers using people's money as the seed money. The only way that is sustainable is you are always growing and growing. And how do they walk out of this Ponzi scheme? They go into an IPO. They get the pay and then they jump out. This was never about education, and this was never about investments and businesses or anything. This was run as a Ponzi scheme. If you think that I'm upset at Xi Jinping for doing what he did about education, you are absolutely wrong. I am upset at these kind of businesses that ruin my industry and that might end up forcing me to close down my training center, my training center was run as a business. These people were not running this as a business. So there you go. Now you understand why these things had to take place.
Hey,
Mario, do
hey,
you want to talk about
hey,
LinkedIn? Yes, sir.
hey, yeah. Luck in coffee. Same story. Luck in
Yes.
coffee, right? I
So
mean,
many
this is
stories.
people. Everybody gets smart and they try to take advantage of these. They take these capitalist ideas and they mute and they turn them they pervert them, and they cheat people. But it's legal, okay? And it's like Trump with all of his bankruptcies, okay? Screwing workers, screwing suppliers that he never paid, and then having 2 billion in debt and then declaring bankruptcy and just screwing everybody along the way, but he's left with a few hundred million. I mean, these stories, it's not just Trump. This predatory capitalism. There's another one that I posted this morning, this Alderman Capital. They're buying up all the newspapers and they're gutting them. They're just, all they care about is money, 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 and they're playing these games. Now, LinkedIn had no way to do that in China. LinkedIn's gone. LinkedIn's out. Why is LinkedIn gone? Why is LinkedIn out? Because China's evil and bad with all their bad censorship. That's why. Whoa, whoa, whoa. No, that's not why. Hello. Sorry. That's what they're going to blame. They're definitely going to say, oh, that's the reason. Okay. No,
That's
that's
what the
not.
news headlines say. Censorship.
Look,
Nothing to do
look,
about selling illegal data that you're not supposed to manipulate that. Oh no, they don't say that in the article. Another thing that they
hey,
didn't say in the article, 105 companies suffered this backlash. 103 were Chinese. Bing and LinkedIn are the two foreign ones. So why don't they talk about the 103 Chinese companies that were also hit with this particular backlash?
Hey, it was our friend Jerry, Fernando. It was our friend Jerry who pointed the extra point out this morning when we were all
Yep.
talking. That it's about the money. Listen to me. I got a very common sense thing I want to say to you. If anybody could possibly disagree with this, right? So you got well over 1 million foreign companies who choose to do business in another country like China. They're all here. They're all doing business, and they're all registered to do business. And if you're doing business in China, you have to follow the laws of this country. And that would be true if you're any foreign company that wants to go do business in America, which I've heard is pretty tough, by the way, or Italy or Germany or pretty much anywhere on planet Earth. You've got to follow. So if you can't figure out a way to do business in that country, follow the laws of that country, and make money, I guess you failed and you need to leave that country. And this would, I mean, because there's 1 million other companies who are here. They're here. They're still here. The majority of American companies, according to the American Chamber of Commerce and the United States China Business Council, are here in China, and like 40-50% of them are adding to their investments here in China. So if Microsoft made a strategic decision, and they did, and this is what I want to clarify for you, it had nothing to do with censorship. Okay, they made a decision. They said, well, we've got our profitable division over here, which is HR, recruiting, and job search. Okay, and we have this social media thing over here, which, number one, isn't making us any money. I don't know this to be 100% true, by the way. So this part I am saying is just some discussion and opinion. I'm saying that I don't have any evidence, but that, hey, this social media part of it isn't making any money. One of the reasons it's not making any money is because we can't sell the data like Facebook can do back in America. So we have restrictions over here. So this part of the business isn't working out really well. Plus, lately, China's been more stringent on censoring what we're allowed in those social media posts, which I'm glad they are. Okay, so that division of our company is not working out. We're going to shut that one down, but they're continuing with the HR and job search and part of their business in China, Microsoft. There you go. That's the explanation.
So let us drop the LinkedIn discussion. It's all very clear. It has nothing to do with censorship. It has to do with China having laws that protect the data of its users, and it has to be stored in the country, and it cannot be traded, or it cannot be sold. It cannot be manipulated in a way that is going to generate profit for the company. So that's what took place. They canceled the social media part, but the recruitment part still stays on LinkedIn. Now, let's get back to Taiwan and this idea that really upset me with regards to what is called the strategic ambiguity, which is the principle by which the United States does business with China or entertains China and Taiwan. What do you understand by ambiguity? Ambiguity is something that It is open for interpretation. And that's what the media and what the politicians like to talk about. But let me show you a couple of things. And I ask you, what is left to interpretation when you go to the US Department of State website and see this relationship with Taiwan? Basically, they acknowledge that the only government that they recognize is the People's Republic of China when it comes to relationships with Taiwan. But along the lines of this AUKUS agreement, and in terms of this ambiguity, let's go to, let's say, the UK Parliament website, where it shows you that Taiwan is not recognized as a country. The only government that is accepted by the House of Commons, by the UK, is China. And the only government is the People's Republic of China. There's no ambiguity there. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Go to the websites from your own countries and see for yourselves. I'm not telling you this because you have to believe me. Go to your own countries and understand that the laws and the regulations and the way things are set up are not ambiguous at all. And let's finish with the Australian Department of Foreign Affairs, where they actually say that Australia-Taiwan relationships basically recognize that the only government that they report to is the People's Republic of China in Beijing. Please visit these websites. Go to your own governments and understand that media and the politicians are lying to you, telling you that there's ambiguity. There is no ambiguity. There's only one China, and that is led by Beijing in China, period. So, are we good?
Taiwan's own constitution refers to it as part of China. You know, the people that are encouraging separatism, okay, is the current DPP government, Mrs. Tai. Did you see that? Did you see the clip that showed up on Twitter?
Oh, I can't say this in Chinese.
You can't even speak good Mandarin. I think my Mandarin's better than hers. Okay, what a disgrace, right? I mean, she's an American puppet. Okay, so this, and which now I got to go back, okay, because this goes back 90 years to the 1930s. Okay, what did you say the last time I finished explaining this? You said the U.S. government backed the wrong horse. Okay, let me be very clear about this. Okay, because none of this is rhetoric, none of this is politics, none of this is not Joe Rogan, who, it's so sad. The guy's so good and so right about so many things, but on the subject of China, he just loses it. He just goes off the cliff with everybody else. It's so unfortunate because these big people are so influential. There's another Twitter lady. She had 61,000 followers, and she said just something so ignorant. I thought, lady, you've got 61,000 followers, and you're telling them something that's completely crazy. Oh, Ian Crossland, what did this guy with the organ?
Oh my God. He can't even understand that Xinjiang and Shenzhen are different. And he's talking about the harvesting of organs and like to be sold like
halal organs. The organs
halal
have to be
organs, yeah.
Just insanity, just complete and total insanity. Which now let me go back. Hold on. Let me go back to the clarity of it. Let me go back to the clarity of it. Because what I'm telling you, and I've said this many times before, is apodeictic. It's based on what we know to be evidently, observably, absolutely correct and true. Otherwise, I wouldn't say it. Earlier, I was giving you my opinion. I thought, well, I think it's because Microsoft can't make money. I'm not sure. So I told you it was my opinion. But when something is absolutely, evidently, observably known to be true, like the fact that there's no genocide in Xinjiang, okay, that's a done deal. It's evidently known to be true. There's no genocide in Xinjiang, okay, and of course we know AP News just acknowledge that. So stuff like that. I mean, just things which unfortunately people in the West are being brainwashed. But we can argue with such a reputable, amazing historian and author as James Bradley. Okay. And this guy wrote the China Mirage. What's the China Mirage? The American belief, and again, the arrogance behind this is just incredible, that China would be like Mike. China want be like Mike. You know, they like China wants to become like us. What do the French want to become like you? Do the Italians want to become like you? Does anybody want to become like you, or rather than be themselves? I don't know who. No, I don't know anybody who wants to do anything other than be who they are and feel quite good about it. So that's the Chinese. But the Americans act politically, they actually believed this. Roosevelt believed this. This was back in the 30s. Okay. And they were willing to put up money and fund this. And the Song family, the Song Ching Ling, and I forget their names. Forgive me. I should be better versed. I apologize. The Song, they saw this. They were educated in the United States, and they knew there was money available, and they wanted the money. Okay, so they went to Chiang Kai-shek after he fled to Taiwan. Why did Chiang Kai flee to Taiwan? Because he lost. I mean, it's just like Mao won. Chiang lost. He's the one that fled. You get it? The one that lost fled. It's like Mao won. Chiang lost. Okay. So then the Song sisters went to Chiang and said, the American government will give us a lot of money. We want to promote China, and we can still make China Christian. And you just become a Christian, marry our sister, put our brother in a ministerial position, and we'll get access to all kinds of money and funding and support from the United States government to promote China, to promote Taiwan. That literally is what happened. Franklin Delano Roosevelt got bamboozled by Chiang Kai-shek and the Song sisters. And keep in mind, he was happy to, because Delano, the grandfather, was the Opium War guy. He was, along with, who was it, part of the Rockefeller family? I mean, the opium money founded Yale and Harvard. Oh my, I have to stop. I have to pause and give everyone a chin. Everyone watching has to take a breath and go, we got to unpack. We have to unpack the last 2 minutes of accurate, factual stuff that Mario just said, because it's just unbelievable. And that's what's going on, man. That's where this whole thing, Taiwan thing is like, it's like a ruse. It's a ruse.
So unfortunately, what is taking place with Taiwan is being used, basically. It's being used to push China to do things that China does not want to do. China, look, when Xi Jinping says peaceful reunification, what does that mean to you? If you are somebody who hates us, our channel, our show, China, let me ask you, what does peaceful reunification mean to you? Are you that thick over here? Do you not get it? Peaceful reunification. He said it just a few days ago when he found out that, well, or when it was revealed that troops were training the army in Taiwan for over a year. He said, like, we have no intention of doing anything. Our only purpose is peaceful reunification in 5 years, in 10 years, whenever it happens, whenever the Western leader, America, collapses, we'll be ready to talk to our Taiwanese brothers and sisters and say, like, hey, how about joining us again? Peaceful reunification. Now, stay away from Taiwan. Back off. Now, you had a very strong position in terms of what if Taiwan decides to claim independence? Do you think that that's a possibility?
There's only one way. There's only one way this situation. We have to be very clear. There's only one way that this situation can actually escalate. The rest is just fodder for the mill of the news cycle and people chit-chatting back and forth about things that they have absolutely no idea about. They're either delusional, they're fantasizing, or they're just ruminating opinions just to be entertaining, and that's all they're doing. And all that's just a bunch of nonsense above and beyond one fact and one fact only, okay, that this train pulls out of the station only if and when Taiwan makes some kind of a move toward independence. What's my opinion as to whether or not that would happen? Absolutely never. Now, that is an opinion, okay, for sure. All right, look, what's going on, okay? In order for Taiwan to declare independence as a, quote, democracy like America, I die when the hypocrisy of what I just said is just painful, okay? But nevertheless, if that's what they are claiming, then as the Constitution states, there is a legislative process in order to do that, period. There's a legislative process to do that. So in other words, if President Ms. Tsai, again, whose Mandarin now we know sucks, if if she was to stand up tomorrow and declare Taiwan as an independent, that would be the act of a dictator, not the act of a democracy. So it's just ridiculous. So that isn't going to happen. Okay, I mean, and no one is asking her to do that. She has no in mind to do that. The United States is not suggesting that she does that. No, so you see what I mean? So that's off the table. It isn't going to happen. It's just not going to. It would be the ultimate hypocrisy. It would just be ridiculous. So
it's very similar to Hong Kong in a way that a lot of people in Hong Kong were thinking, oh, we are going to be saved by America. America will have our back. America will be there for us. And you find all this Hong Kongese people living in England, like unable to find jobs and unable to get support, and America just dropped them, just like a used rubber. Now, here's the thing. It all boils down to a very critical industry in Taiwan, which is the chip manufacturing. America is racing to set up their manufacturing in the country. And at that point, where they achieve that, they're going to drop Taiwan in a minute. It's too expensive to keep an eye on this particular source of supply, this very important part of today's world that is taking place in Taiwan. And China, on the other hand, has the supplies that Taiwan needs. So if at any point they want to slow things down, China could. They won't, as you just said it, they won't. But you got to understand the way the river flows, okay? Now, the other thing is that China is really racing toward developing the next generation of chips. And the point is, the big question for people out there is, who's going to get that first? My money is on China. They have the money, the resources, the technicians, the knowledge, and the experience of developing things that are way ahead of other people, like 5G, to get it done. If they get to manufacture these chips in China, that automatically makes Taiwan, it has no purpose, it has no use, and they will dominate the world. Mario.
Another key part to this, everyone, please go to my LinkedIn. Again, I'm proud to be on Huawei's global leadership thought platform all around the world. I work with them. I worked with them on an article. Did a lot of research on the most recent things that are happening in the semiconductor industry. And it's exactly about what Fernando was just mentioning. So go to my LinkedIn. You want to read that article. It's about that report. It's about 3,000 words. I spent a lot of time digging deep on where China's at in terms of the semiconductor industry, and et cetera, et cetera. A lot of great detail in there. So go to my LinkedIn and read that. And James Bradley said during one of his book talks that, and he said it very casually. He said, no, Taiwan's just going to end up like Hong Kong. Whoa. And then he said, the way he said it, it's not going to be a big deal. Just a few more of the old folks need to die. And then Taiwan will just get absorbed into China, just like it'll become more and more like China, like Hong Kong.
Yeah, because that's one of the paradigms of Hong Kong. There's the older generations that actually are longing to come back and integrate with China, and there's a newer generation that have been affected by Western capitalism and ideals and lies, and selling them promised futures that they will abandon the moment that they don't need them anymore. So it'll end up being like Hong Kong, just like he said. All right, Mario, I have one more thing that I want to ask you. Have you received an apology from the people who called you genocide denier? AP backtracks the story, and now we're all waiting. Hey, you were accusing us of being genocide deniers, and now you say that there's museimification. Have you ever heard that word? Museimification of Xinjiang. The heck? Now you're making up new words. So we're waiting for our apology. All those China haters, whoever called us genocide deniers, we're here waiting. Leave a comment. We will accept that as an apology. Mario, what's up?
No, I'm good. We covered a lot of great points. Was there anything else in the notes that I sent you that we wanted to mention? If not, I think we had a great show, and we're going to wrap it up. Like I said, I'm heading down to my room.
Okay, no, the only thing that I want to tell you is that I've been extremely busy. This is why I haven't put any videos, and this is why I am launching. Are we there yet? Very
Oh yeah, I like the title, man.
soon. I'll tell you more about that later. But if you want, go to YouTube and search for Are We There Yet? That is a new channel that you're going to be seeing some new content. Like the logo? I do. All right, guys, that's all the time we have for today. Thanks so much. Until we see you again, take it easy.